You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. All eclipses bring waves of unpredictability. They are times when doors are opening and closing. Big chapters of our life come to completion or begin. With that comes a ton of energy, a ton of emotion, a ton of change. And because of that, we need to be prepared with an open heart to let what's going to happen. Hello there, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia. I am a self-care specialist as well as a certified astrologer, and every week I come here to share just a little bit from within. Usually that has to do with something that I am working through or thinking about in my own life, trying to apply or trying to set as an intention, or even just struggling with and working through. I have found in my life that hearing others share their truth has been one of the most relieving things for me personally, because so often we feel like we're the only ones that struggle. We're the only ones that are going through something or hitting a barrier or feeling resistance. And we find out that other people are doing it too, and maybe what they're doing about it, it can set off all these little light bulb moments in your own head. So that is my hope from sharing that little bit from within, a little bit in my heart, is that you are inspired, that you are encouraged, and that you feel like you can put yourself first and make yourself a priority and make your self-care a priority as well. So with that said, let's dive into this week's episode. If you've been listening for a little while, you know that I am in the throngs of moving right now. A few weeks ago, we put our house on the market. It quickly received an offer, and now we are under contract on a new house and preparing for a big move. Now, while I've moved many times in my life, I will say that I haven't moved since 2019 when we moved into this home. And before that, I feel like we'd been moving all of the time. Like, I think we went through a 2-year period where there were like 4 or 5 moves. That just had to do with some weird temporary housing things. But, you know, I feel like I was in a flow at that point. And now I'm out of practice. And I will say, I forgot how difficult it is. One of the parts that I have struggled with the most is the fact that I am such a lover of books. I love books. I love having books. If I could have a huge library in my home and just fill it from top to bottom with books, that is totally what I would do. But I have actually begun finally holding myself back from buying books because books are so challenging to move. They take up so much space. They're so heavy. And so I guess I've been working through that a little bit. In fact, today I've packed up all my books. In the room that I'm sitting in right now, we have this beautiful vaulted ceiling in our office. We painted the wall here that is the largest wall, a nice, beautiful, like diver blue color. And then high up on the wall is a huge, long shelf that I put all of my books on. And, well, actually, only not all of them, half of my books on. And it's been one of my favorite pieces that we did. I think we did it 2 years ago, maybe, somewhere in the past few years. And today I got up there, packed up all of those books, or got them down, got them put into boxes, and I will say that how I'm handling all of this right now is I'm just really trying to stay focused on tackling it one step at a time. And it's funny because this has been a theme for me for over the past month. One of the things that Dave had said to me when I first started my job a month ago, my new job, he said, you know, how do you eat an elephant? You know, one bite at a time. And forgive me if you've heard me say this recently, but this has truly been a theme for me because I'm the kind of person who wants to anxiously tackle everything, because having a long list of to-dos makes me feel so filled with anxiety, so out of control. And I am really rooting myself and choosing to move into this in a different way by really trying to stay focused on just tackling one thing at a time and trying not to get too overwhelmed with the details. And I would say if I had to rate myself on how I'm doing with that right now, like I'd say I'm doing like a solid B, maybe a B plus. Like I'm definitely not in A range, but I would say that I'm doing it. So let me give an example. Normally, I would have had a place for us to stay after we move out of this house before we close on our next house. I would have had that arranged. I would have had all of the travel arrangements figured out. I would have had the moving pod scheduled. I would have known exactly what the plan was. And this time, like I've known that I've identified this as a problem and a to-do list item for over a week now. And I've just been holding space. I've been researching it every single day. I've been thinking about it. I've been talking about it with other people, and I've just chosen to get one thing done at a time. So middle of the week, I did schedule a pod for us. I figured that out, not locked that down. And then I was able to even wait until this morning to really nail down our temporary housing. And that worked out really well. It worked out just fine. It was okay. And I'm trying to remind myself of that. I'm trying to really remember, like, it's okay to wait and not have to just fling yourself through the anxiety. Because what I've done in the past is I've done that and I've made fine decisions, but I've made anxious and fearful decisions. I've made quick decisions because I was scared instead of slowing down and making thoughtful and intentional decisions. And so that's what I'm living right now. And I will say that so far, so good. And I hope that can serve as a reminder for anyone who is entering into territory that they've never experienced before. You feel like you're doing something for the first time or on a different scale than you have. Just remember, you don't have to act without having time to think about it. You don't have to shoot from the hip. You don't have to make those anxious decisions. You are allowed to slow down and it will not all fall apart. And I'm saying that as a reminder of myself to seal this in for myself on that deeper level is just, I think for so much of my life, I thought if I didn't do it then, that then everything would fall apart. And now I'm teaching myself, I'm kind of holding my own hand and remembering it's not going to fall apart. You just take it one step at a time. And things do happen quickly. And I'm feeling that right now, even just getting through this work week, it feels like because of my new job, it's like during the work week, it's hard to tackle this stuff. There's just not a lot of bandwidth. And I am tackling things, like homeowners insurance changes and things like that. But last week I was feeling a lot of that anxiety that I needed to start packing or start making decisions about what we're going to take. And I should probably get some stuff cleaned and put on Facebook Marketplace and all that stuff. And then there was that other practical part of me that was saying, no, you can do that this weekend. And so I waited and I had time and I've done that this weekend. And it's not a fun process. It's not something that I enjoy, but I'm just taking it little by little. I'm not feeling like, okay, I have to have every single thing I'm going to post ready to go and then do it all at once. No, it's like I told myself, okay, start with the patio stuff, get that posted. Okay. Now today I posted like a shelf and it's okay. I can just take it one step at a time and it's all going to be okay. And that is my helpful reminder right now. Now, I will say, hopefully this is something that we can kind of build off these lessons right now as I begin to move into our astro check-in. So we are having our full moon of the month. So it's the April full moon. It's called the pink full moon. And this one is in the sign of Libra. So, spring began, sun moved into Aries. We had our first Aries new moon 2 weeks ago. And this week we're moving into the full moon of this month, the full moon of this lunar cycle. And full moons, as a reminder, are always when the moon is opposite in the zodiac of where the sun is at, right? So sun is in Aries, that means the moon is in Libra. And this is going to be a time of opposition, as all full moons are, and a time for us to look at two different sides of a coin to figure out where we need to lean into to find balance. Now, Aries represents I. So I am, I can, I will, I have. I mean, we're getting a little further away from Aries, but really that the vibe is I am. While Libra is we. We are. We can. We will. That kind of vibe. And so I think this is going to be the full moon where I want you to sit with the idea of we are not better alone, right? Like, we are not alone. We truly, whether you have a partner you can lean on, your family, or just the collective, right? The vibe that you're listening to this right now, and from listening to me that you are not alone. That is the vibe. Now, the other thing that I think is important to keep in mind is, where are you at in your relationship with others? Sometimes we can get so wrapped up in feeling like we have to go at it alone, that our ideas are the only ones that count, that our understanding, that our ideas, that our desires, those are what matter most. And that's not always true. Sometimes we need other people to actually be that missing puzzle piece, to bring things together, to bring in new energy, new ideas, or even just to lighten the load that we're carrying. Partnership and being in relationship with others is so important. It's so instinctive for us. And it's an evolution. It's a little tricky. It takes courage. So this is something that we have to be open to, and that openness is what allows us to benefit from partnership. Now, on the other side of the coin, which we have to explore because we're talking about this balance here, is we can get too involved and too wrapped up in what other people think, in being codependent and saying, if other people are okay, then I'm okay. And when we do that, we lose sight of ourselves. We lose sight of our own strength, our individuality, our ability to get stuff done, to lean into our own ideas, our own understandings, our own needs, the way that we need things to be. And so this is the theme as we move towards Thursday's full moon. This is April 6th. Where are you at in that scale? In what places do you need to lean into partnership? And in what places of your life do you need to lean into your own strength and individuality? Now, all of that said, this full moon is one that we need to commit to and to find the intention for surrender and for letting go. And I say that because starting on April 20th, we have a very powerful solar eclipse. And that is followed 2 weeks later in early May by a powerful lunar eclipse. When eclipses happen, it is powerful. It is like taking a regular new moon or a standard full moon and injecting it with like incredibly powerful energy, like magnifying it by like times 3 to 5. And this eclipse month in particular is a little bit interesting because we're straddling two different zodiac pairs. Eclipses always come in pairs, just like the full moons. And for the past 18 months, all of the eclipses have been within Taurus and Scorpio. And that is getting ready to switch. We're going to be completing that season this year and moving into a new eclipse season for the next 18 months. And the eclipses that we're moving to are in that Aries and Libra area. So for this eclipse coming up, we have the Aries solar eclipse, the Aries new moon solar eclipse, and then we have a Scorpio lunar eclipse. So we're straddling this line. And because of this, I mean, not just because of this, but all eclipses bring waves of unpredictability. They are times when doors are opening and closing. Big chapters of our life come to completion or to begin. And with that comes a ton of energy, a ton of emotion, a ton of change. And because of that, we need to be prepared with an open heart to let what's going to happen, which is what brings us back to the importance of this full moon at this time of your life, which is preparing to commit to surrender. This is going to be key for you as you prepare for the following lunar cycle, as you open yourself up to the change that is going to happen, ready or not, in your life. And you may already be starting to feel waves of change happening. In fact, obviously you can tell from my own life, it is no surprise at all to me that we have started this process of moving and whatnot. And what's ironic is we're slated to close on our next house right around this time, like right during this eclipse season, right around the lunar eclipse. Also, we have Mercury retrograde coming up at the end of the month. That's also happening. And this is another sign, like eclipses tend to be moments that you can remember for years. Now, maybe not every single eclipse, but if you looked back at, a history of eclipses, I bet that you would find that some of the big moments that you can point to and say, oh my gosh, I will never forget this moment in your life, that they actually did happen around eclipses. In fact, I was just sharing with a very close friend of mine that, we can really feel that eclipse season energy coming, because she texted me a picture the other day of a tree that had come down right on her car. And we were just kind of both in shock talking about this. I mean, especially her having to be the one dealing with this. But I was sharing with her, I'm like, this is something that would happen like right around eclipse season. Like, it's almost like if you're familiar with tarot cards, eclipses can be a lot like the Tower card, which is this tower that's being struck by lightning. And we all have moments in our life that unpredictable things happen. You could never predict that a tree would come down on your car. And if you could, you would absolutely move it so that you could get yourself out of that situation. And so you can't control when certain things happen in your life. But you can take that moment and decide what it means to you and for you moving forward. And I will say that this kind of will be our segue towards the rest of what I wanted to share with today's episode, which has to do with taking care of ourselves during these big times of change. Now, of course, I've been speaking to this a lot lately because sharing a bit from within authentically has a lot to do with me as I figure out change and transition and navigating all of this stuff. But I will say and speak to this on a different level, this level of a tree falling down on your car. When something like that happens in your life, it's a moment of checking in. Okay. Yes, there are the logistics, the insurance, who's responsible, how long is this going to take? Do you need a rental car? Do you need to make accommodations at work? Like, there's all of those things that happen when you experience something crazy, right? But then there's the emotional side of it. And I think it's important for us all when we're going through really big emotions and big change in our life, that we pause and we check in with what's coming up for us emotionally. One of the things that I've noticed in my life is that when I go through something and I have emotions about it, I have this feeling or this kind of, belief that those feelings that are coming up for me are the only proper emotions to have, the only emotions that make sense to have. And what I've learned as I've gotten a little bit older, a little bit wiser, hopefully, is that we actually have way more choice than we give ourselves credit for. we can default into what we've always done before. Maybe that looks like limited thinking. Maybe that looks like woe is me. In fact, it would be very easy. If I had a tree come down on my car, it would be very easy for me to fall into, oh my God, how did this happen to me? Is this a sign of something bad to come? Is this a bad omen? Am I, gosh, just even the logistics of trying to figure that out, like it would be very easy to fall into a really bad place with that, right? Like that would make sense for any of us. And maybe you do need to acknowledge those feelings, because even with this choice, you can't just go into positive vibes only. You guys know that I'm a really big advocate of that. I'm not a believer that you should lie about the truth of how you feel. But what I want to present is that while it would make sense to feel that way, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's a different path, something else that you can lean into in a tree coming down on your car situation. And I hope you see that I'm using this as just like the analogy of something bigger, that lightning strike moment, that moment of something unexpected coming into your life. And that is the question of, what could this be creating room for? Or what could this be doing for me, right? Like, what is the opportunity here? Maybe that's the right word for me. Even if something looks bad, even something if looks like a loss, even if it's something that is causing you grief or inconvenience or stress, where's the opportunity there? And this is a little bit different than, just looking for the silver lining, although there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's something a little bit more practical than that. And something that I think is an extremely important part of personal growth. And that's kind of taking responsibility for where you're at in this moment in your life. In the analogy of the tree coming down on your car, maybe it's a matter of saying, like, wow, maybe this is happening to, one, force me to adult in a way that I haven't before. I'm sure that's what I would be experiencing. In fact, I feel that with my own move. Like, this move is forcing me to adult in a way that I haven't before. I've never been selling a house and buying a house. I've never bought a piece of property that has land, right? Like, I've never owned a fully detached home before. This is a new experience. I've never bought a house that is more than 5 years old. This is something that I am doing for the first time. I've never moved out of state before. These are things that I've never done, that I'm doing for the first time, and it is scary, and it is showing me how capable I am. And that's one of the things that I try to remember when I get a little bit scared, is that, well, other people have done it, and if they can do it, then I can do it. Somebody out there has had a tree fall on their car before, so if they can get through it, then I can get through it, right? It's kind of like reminding yourself that for whatever reason, you have been, I guess, chosen to be capable of moving through this, of figuring it out, of, taking the journey, whether you like it or not. And remember, liking it is not a requirement, right? You don't have to like that. But I will say that a mantra that I've been using that I think can come in handy is, this is a temporary moment in time that will pass. In that I can trust. And that is so helpful when we are going through these really unpredictable moments in our life, is remembering that the change part, the difficult part of it, the stressful part, the inconvenient part, all of that is temporary. And then as we continue to pull on the thread of where this can take you, of where the opportunity is, it's the part of the personal growth. What else can this be creating space for? And I think this is really important. It's important in spring. It's important during eclipse season. This time of year, it's really evident, where we start to see, actually, like, as you look out your window and you start to see little buds on trees and grass turning green again and the days being longer, all of that is coming, and we can appreciate it because we made room for it. Because we spent a winter without the green grass, without the leaves on the trees. We spent the winter in the darkness. And so if you're going through a place where you're in a little bit of a loss, when you're saying goodbye to something that you weren't expecting to, or maybe you did know, but you're still feeling it, it's okay to remember that every time you give something away or say goodbye to something or move away from something, that you are creating space for something new. And that doesn't mean it has to be a loss, right? It could be a change. I'm thinking of, my loved ones here in Colorado, right? They are going to not have me physically here in Colorado with them anymore, but we will still stay connected just as we were before. It'll just look different. And so that's not a loss in completely, but it's a change. And even that change, maybe that opens up a window to something different. Maybe it's a new path to travel more, to come visit me, right? Maybe it's a new window into having a friend that lives in a different area that can delight them with stories from a different town, a different place. Maybe it's something small like that, but maybe it's still an opportunity, a crack into something new. And of course, I'm going to be going through that in my own life of opening my heart up to new people, new neighbors, new roads to travel on a daily commute, new hikes to do, new sights to see. All of that is going to be brand new. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I am taking it just one step at a time because there's so much going on. And I think that's the final point I'll reiterate through all of this. It's okay to take it one step at a time. It's okay if you're just in the grief. It's okay if you move into the hope. It's okay if you're in the gratitude or in the loss or wherever you are in the journey. It's okay to take it one step at a time. And it's okay, in fact, it's important to remember that will continue to shift as you get used to it, as you find yourself growing stronger. It's all a part of the journey. So with that, we'll close today's episode. I want to say thank you for bearing with me through this time of change. It's been strange to come to the podcast in a place of everything shifting around and changing because, for you, it probably is the same as always. You just press play and hear me coming through and chatting and sharing my heart with you. But for me, I'm out of my routine. I usually have my spot in the closet where I record, and lately I've been recording in the office, and the scenery around me is changing, and I am just in flux, and I'm knowing that, okay, in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be recording from a different place. What's that going to be like? It's exciting and it's different. And so that's why I want to just say thank you for being on this journey with me and for letting me share with you even while I'm going through all of this change. It's so special. It means the world to me. It's something I look forward to doing each and every week. So be sending me all of your positivity. Know that I'm sending you mine in return. And of course, I just had this pop into my mind. I wanted to say that if you do want, as you're coming into this month's full moon, to join my Patreon, you can do a 30-day free trial. You can get the latest full moon guide. It's the lunar self-care guide. It does touch on the past new moon that we had, but it will give you a good preview of information and inspiration for this month's full moon, a little bit deeper than what I shared today. It has a full moon ritual that you can do in it, as well as it has a little bit more information on the previewing of the eclipses that are coming up. And if you join now for that 30-day free trial, you'll actually also get next month's Yeah, is that right? Yeah, because we're within that 30 days. So you'll get next month's lunar guide as well that will go through the same thing, the new moon and full moon rituals, how to handle that during eclipse season, things you can do to take care of yourself. And then there's different ways that you can join as well. You can take some of my gentle yoga classes. You can try my guided meditation. So if you feel like this would be something really good for you as you move into your spring, please feel free to check it out at patreon.com/abitfromwithin. Memberships range from as low as $3 to $18 a month, but there's a 30-day free trial on all levels of membership. So check it out if you want a little bit more of what I do each and every month for the A Bit From Within community. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you next time.